Let's practice what we've learned about converting fractions to percents and percents to fractions and decimals to percents and percents to decimals. So let's start with this first picture here. I see that I have a rectangle and it's cut into 4 equal pieces. One of those pieces is shaded. So what I want to do is I want to write a fraction that represents the shaded portion. 1 out of 4 is shaded, so my fraction is 1/4. Now to write this as a decimal, you could do one of two things. You could divide 1 divided by 4, or you could come up with an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of 10 or 100. And then the numerator will tell me the number that's going to go in the decimal place. So I think that sounds pretty good. I'm going to do that. Well, I know that if I multiply 4 by 25, I'm going to get 100. And whatever I do to the denominator, I need to do to the numerator. So 1 times 25 is 25. Now, the denominator tells me the place value to use for my decimal. So I'm going to have 25 1/100ths. And the way that I write that is 0.25, 25 1/100ths. Now, to convert this number to a percent, remember, we can take that decimal, 25 1/100ths, multiply it by 100, which moves our decimal point over 2 to the right. So it'll be 25, and then we add the percent sign. So 25%. 1/4 is equivalent to 25 1/100ths, which is 25%. I'm going to erase my work on the bottom so I can do the rest, but you leave your work where it is. Let's look at the second picture right here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 little diamonds, and 8 of them are shaded. So I'm going to write a fraction that represents this image. So 8 out of 10 are shaded. Now remember, we always want to write our fraction answers in simplest form if we can. Well, I know that 8 divided by 2 equals 4, and 10 divided by 2 equals 5. So my fraction here is going to be 4/5. That's what I want there. Now, to write this as a decimal, remember we said we want to write an equivalent fraction using a denominator of 10 or 100. The denominator is going to tell me the place value to use for the decimal, and the numerator from the equivalent fraction will be the digit used in the decimal. Well, the first fraction that I wrote was 8/10, which already has a denominator of 10. So I know that I need to write a decimal with a digit in the 10ths place. And the digit that's going to go in the 10ths place is my numerator, which is 8. So my decimal is 8/10. To convert this to a percent, I'm going to go ahead and take 8/10, and I'm going to multiply it by 100, which means I'm going to take this decimal and move it to the right 2. And I need to go ahead and put a 0 here. So 8/10 is equivalent to 80%. So 8/10 as a fraction is equivalent to 4/5 as a fraction, and that's what you want to have written in your blank. The decimal is 0.8 or 8/10, and then your percent is 80%. Go ahead and try this last one on the top row on your own. Pause the video while you do your work, and then once you've done your work and you're ready to check, you can press play. So the last diagram, our fraction is 6/8, which in simplest form is 3/4. The decimal is 75 1/100ths, and our percent is 75%. Let's try 3 more. So our first one here, we have a circle cut into 3 pieces, and one of those pieces is shaded. So 1 out of 3 is shaded. My fraction is 1/3. Now, to convert this to a decimal, I'm going to have to divide. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 divided by 3. Well, 3 doesn't go into 1, so I have to put that decimal and a 0. And now I divide as if the decimal was not even there. So 3 into 10. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9, and I get a 1. Now I have a remainder, so I'm gonna keep adding zeros and bringing them down. Well, I get 10 again. 3 into 10 goes 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. And so if I kept doing this, I would keep getting 10, and I would keep having 3 going into 10 3 times. My decimal is going to repeat. So what I'm going to do for my decimal is I'm just going to put 0.3 with a bar over the 3 to show that it's a repeating decimal. So this is 3/10 with a repeating decimal. Now as a percent, I'm going to take this decimal, and remember, because that bar means that the 3 is repeating, I know that this means I could keep writing 3 over and over and over again after that decimal, and that would still be correct. So I'm going to take my decimal, and we'll just do this. We'll put 3 3s like that, okay? Multiply by 100. That means I move my decimal over to the right 2. So now it's 33.3. That decimal is still repeating, so I still put a bar over it because it keeps going. Okay, and then it's percent, so I put my percent sign. So 1/3 is equivalent to 3/10 with a repeating decimal, and 33 3/10% repeating decimal. So that's my first one. Let's try the second one. So I'm looking at this cylinder here in the center, and it looks like it's about half full to me. So half of the cylinder is filled. Well, as a decimal, I can write this. Basically, let's find an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. 2 times 50 equals 100. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. 1 times 50 equals 50. Okay, and so I know that my decimal should be 50 hundredths, which is essentially 5/10, right? So it could be 50 hundredths or 5/10. And I'm going to say let's do 5/10 because that's the most simple form of that decimal. So 5/10. Now to write it as a percent, I'm going to take that 5/10 and I'm going to multiply it by 100, which means my decimal is going to move 2 to the right, and I will have a 0 there. So it is 50%. Why don't you try the last one on your own, pause the video, and then when you're ready to check, press play once more. So the fraction for this last model is 4/6, and then we simplify that to 2/3. 2/3 as a decimal is 6/10 with a repeating decimal, so the bar is over the 6. And then as a percent, we have 66.6% with a repeating decimal, so the bar is over the 6. We would also say this 66 6/10%. Let's try a word problem just to make sure that we understand what to do. It says Andrew made an A on 12 out of 40 homework assignments he had completed for the semester. I'm going to bring the picture down just a little bit so I can write on it. Okay, write the number of homework assignments that Andrew made an A on as a fraction in simplest terms. So I'm going to use my nosy and I'm going to underline my question. I'm also going to circle or underline any important information. So he made an A on 12 out of 40 assignments. I need to write it as a fraction in simplest terms. Well, I'll start off by writing 12 over 40, and then I need to simplify. I know that 40 can be divided by 4, and so can 12. So I'm going to divide both of those by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 40 divided by 4 is 10. So my fraction in simplest terms is 3/10. Now we need to write the number of homework assignments that Andrew did not, circle that lots of times, make an A on as a decimal and a percent. So I want you to pause this video and I want you to work on this on your own, and then we're actually going to check this tomorrow in class with your group. So do this on your own. Find the decimal and percent of the assignments that he did not make an A on, and then we'll check it in class. Good luck. You can do it.